Good evening and welcome to the Greg Thompson Sports Show. You are joining us here tonight for this Week 13 NFL recap. We are going to whip around the NFL, let you know all the exciting things that happen in the game, how they impact the playoff picture, and obviously how they touch on the hopes of our now in the hunt Buffalo Bills. So without further ado, we will jump right in. Thursday Night Football did not impact the Bills' playoff chances, but it was a hell of an interesting football game. It was an entire game with 0 punts. They didn't punt the ball one time. So the Seahawks did fall to the Dallas Cowboys. It got really close. Both quarterbacks played really, really well. Huge breakout game from DK Metcalf, had 3 touchdowns, overshadowing CD Lamb, who also had a really nice game. Just a very, very entertaining game. I don't know that it tells us a ton. Obviously, the Bills are going to be playing the Cowboys in 2 weeks. So I think it was interesting to see the Cowboys are playing as good of offense as anyone in the NFL right now, but they're also giving up a bunch of points. So we'll see how that goes. The Seahawks kind of needed this game. We'll talk about some of the other games as we go here and how it impacts the standings. But the Seahawks, obviously didn't help themselves going down that path here. In a game that no one was interested in here today, the Los Angeles Chargers somehow covered a 5.5 point spread by scoring 6 points. That is really, really impressive to cover the spread of 5.5 points by scoring 0 touchdowns and scoring 6 total points. This is a horrendous game. There was a few moments down the stretch where New England had a legitimate chance, and of course, kind of mucked it up and didn't really go. There was a spot where they went for it on 4th down twice at the end of the game. One time down at the Chargers 39, another time at their own 42, and just never really even threatened the Chargers. So just a horrendous game. Good on the Chargers not to let them kind of take anything from it, but the Chargers did not look good in this game either. They didn't even score a touchdown. It was 6-0, just a terrible, terrible football game. In a game that took forever, the Arizona Cardinals beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. They knocked Kenny Pickett out of the game. Mitch Trubisky had to come in. The Steelers are going to have a quick turnaround with a Thursday night game against New England here this week. That'll be interesting with both Kenny Pickett and TJ Watt dinged up. TJ Watt had a foot injury. Kenny Pickett with a ankle injury. And the Cardinals, honestly, in this game, you would have never had a clue that they were, 6.5 point road underdogs. They look like just significantly the better team. James Conner coming back not only to his alma mater, but his former home in the NFL as well with the Steelers, coming back, having a great game, 25 carries for 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Trey McBride looked fantastic in this game. I was really, really impressed with him for Arizona, but this was a big game for the Buffalo Bills, knocked Pittsburgh back to 7-5, an important game. If you listen to Aaron and I on Wednesday night, you saw us talk about the, I did all the games by Vegas favorites. This was one I had obviously pegged as a Steelers win, so this one helped and certainly helps the Bills' chances. In one that did not help the Bills' chances, the Tennessee Titans just repeatedly vomited on themselves over and over again. They had every opportunity to win this game. They gave up back-to-back blocked punts. One of the punts went directly for a touchdown. Another blocked punt was a 1st and goal at the 6, which they actually amazingly held the Colts for a field goal. They had a 2-point conversion attempt returned back for 2 points. Just a weird game. On the second blocked punt, their punter got injured, Ryan Stonehouse, so then they didn't have the holder for a field goal. So on a touchdown that they would have taken the lead with 5 minutes left, they missed the extra point. So instead of being up by 1, it was now tied. They got into overtime, had a chance to score a touchdown, messed that up too, kicked a field goal, and then gave up a bomb from Gardner Minshew. Just in a chance that they could have really made this a fantastic day for the Bills. This was the one game that did not go the Bills' way. The Titans fall to 4-8. The Colts stay alive at 7-5. They've been ridiculous all season long. I I would have thought they would have stopped winning by now. They're actually even ahead of the Texans in the playoff race. They've got games at the Bengals, the Steelers, at the Falcons, the Raiders, and the Texans the rest of the way. You could tell me that they win all 5 of those games. You could tell me they lose all 5 of those games. I don't understand how they're winning now. But if the NFL playoffs started today, as they have been for a while here, the Colts would be in. They'd be the 7th seed, and the Texans would be out. Obviously, the Broncos and the Bills also out as the 9th and 10th seeds, but the Colts would be in the playoffs as of today. So that was one of the games that did not go the Bills' way today. In a game that was kind of debatable, I wasn't even sure who I was rooting for in this game. In the short term, I think this helps the Bills. The Texans get a win. They give the Broncos a loss, knock them back to 6-6. Obviously, ideally, we don't want to be tied with the Broncos. In most situations for the 6-7 seed, there's going to be like a 3 or 4-way tie. So head to head does not come fully into play. But it still helps to knock them back and to slow down the momentum that they've had. They, got back into their normal turnover ways here. Russ had 3 interceptions. They didn't have the crazy turnover luck they've had on defense. So right now the Texans are 7-5, a game ahead of the Bills. They also have a pretty winnable schedule. So there's a piece of me that was rooting for the Texans to win this and hoping the Broncos would lose later games down the stretch. It wasn't a perfect rooting interest either way. But right now, both these teams are on the outside looking in behind Indianapolis along with Buffalo. So Houston, Denver, and the Bills right now are the 8th, 9th, and 10th seed in the AFC on the outside looking in. Another game today that was interesting but didn't really affect the Bills. The Lions and the Saints both went back and forth. The Lions actually had quite a lead at one point here and let the Saints kind of claw back into it. Derek Carr got crushed in this game with a nasty pile driver. Literally looked like he was out of professional wrestling by who is it? Bruce Irvin that knocked Carr out of the game. Jameis came in, didn't even get to do any fun Jameis things. It wasn't all that exciting or entertaining. But they came back, lost. The Lions won here. I think the team that was supposed to win did win. Another game that was not terribly entertaining. The Falcons beat the Jets. They let the Jets hang around in this game. The Falcons did not look good, but in a division that's been ugly all year, they got to win while the Saints lost. So this is one that I don't think is terribly important. If anything, it kind of really puts a nail in the coffin for Aaron Rodgers and any crazy hope of there being Jets playoff hope. They're now 4-8. They're closer to the number 1 pick than they are to the playoffs. As of right now, the Jets would be drafting 7th. So maybe even 6th, depending on the tiebreakers. So I don't expect much out of them in this game. The Falcons look pretty terrible and barely won against a terrible Jets team who's gotten housed the last couple of weeks. So nothing crazy there. Nobody boat races bad teams like the Miami Dolphins. And again, they boat raced the Washington Commanders today. This was one there, I guess, if you were kind of hoping for an outside chance of the Bills running the table and getting into week 18 for having it matter for the division, this is probably the one you would have needed the Dolphins to lose. They've got a couple other pretty crappy opponents coming up in games I don't expect them to drop here. They play the Titans, the Jets. They do play the Cowboys and Ravens down the stretch, but we needed them to lose one of these 3 to the Commanders, Titans, and Jets. And obviously, I kind of thought the Commanders was the best team out of those 3 to pull off a real upset. So I think that the Dolphins don't have the division completely wrapped up. You never know, but they have a very, very healthy lead right now, a full 3-game lead on the Bills with only one head-to-head left to go. So we need the Dolphins to drop multiple games here for it to matter. It looks like they have the division well in hand. Again, they boat raced them today, really looked pretty good. Awesome game by Tyreek Hill. They're resting their starters late into the game. He had like 3 catches for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns very early in this game, 2 long bombs. So again, they're fantastic against bad teams. They lose against good teams. We'll see if that can change going into the playoffs. Another game with no real impact on either the playoff race or the Bills. The Buccaneers technically are hanging around a little bit. I don't think that they have any real shot to be able to make it. And today, I guess technically keeps them alive. They're in the 10th seed in the NFC, and the teams that are in are 500, so they're about as close as what the Bills are at 6-6 in the AFC, 5-7 in the NFC is about there. The Panthers actually had a shot to win this game and to be able to look decent. Chuba Hubbard had a really nice game, but again, the Buccaneers were able to pull away. Mike Evans had a big game. Rashad White had a big game. Just not an incredibly, impressive performance, but they won, so they kept their themselves alive in a game that was an impressive performance. The San Francisco 49ers destroyed the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know that I did pick the 49ers. I had a bet in on them. I didn't expect it to be like this. I thought they would win by a touchdown or more. Nobody thought they were going to boat race them this bad, 42-19, one of the biggest wins on the day. Just a really, really impressive performance. Deebo Samuel, 3 touchdowns. He had 2 receiving and 1 rushing. Brock Purdy looked fantastic. Jalen Hurts is in concussion protocol and getting checked out there. That obviously is hugely impactful for the rest of the season, but just a game that was close early on. The Eagles had it 21-13 and even had possession, a chance to be able to bring it back. And then the 49ers just pulled away the rest of the game and weren't able to even let it be interesting down the stretch. In a game that did have a lot of impact for the Buffalo Bills, you had the Cleveland Browns facing the Los Angeles Rams. This is a game that was very much a game. It was tied throughout much of the game, back and forth. You had it 10-10, then again at 13-13. The Browns scored what should have been a game-tying touchdown, but Dustin Hopkins missed the extra point, made it 20-19, and then weirdly, the Rams scored 3 times in the last 4 minutes of the game and made it look like a 36-19 blowout. It wasn't. This was a very close, competitive, entertaining game. But this is another one like the Cardinals beating the Steelers. Anytime you can have an NFC team upsetting a playoff competing AFC team, that is great for the Buffalo Bills. So again, this only drops Pittsburgh and Cleveland back to 7-5, but they were both important losses. Getting a 5th loss there, getting losses to teams that they certainly were capable of beating is very, very important in this stretch. So this was a good day for the Bills. It puts them into a good position right now at halftime of Sunday Night Football. The Packers are beating the Chiefs. It's fun to root against the Chiefs, but it doesn't really matter. They're going to win that division. Nobody is really all that close to them at this point, so it's fun to root against them, but it's not going to have a huge impact on what's going on. Obviously, the Bills stay 3 full games behind in the division. We saw some of the other pieces there. Again, the Chiefs are well ahead of the Broncos or Chargers. So if we look at the playoffs, we really want to continue to root for the top group to pull away and to beat the other teams we're competing with. It doesn't really help the Bills if the Dolphins, Ravens, Chiefs, or Jaguars lose. We'd rather them beat the teams that we're competing with and drive those teams down. We got a fair amount of that today. So Pittsburgh comes back to the pack at 7-5. Cleveland comes back to the pack at 7-5. The Colts get a win to go to 7-5. The Texans get a win to go to 7-5. The Bills tie the Broncos at 6-6 right now, since they're the only 2 teams tied there. That tiebreaker head-to-head does affect them. Ultimately, it would, it may not. If there's a 3-way tie, head-to-head doesn't matter unless all 3 teams have played. So lots more rooting interest as the weeks go. But today was a good day for the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, next week we need to root for multiple different things. We'll do a whole breakdown as we go into it, but obviously number 1 is for the Buffalo Bills to get a win. You can root for the Patriots twofold on Thursday night. We need them to be able to beat the Steelers because it helps the Bills, plus it screws over their draft pick. So that's just fun to be able to root for. Might be Mitch Trubisky on a short week against Bill Belichick, maybe something to root for. Obviously the Bills against the Chiefs is an enormous game. That's a huge one to be able to root for. That's a must have. We have to have wins almost every week down the rest of the stretch. 4-1 for the Bills to really make a dent. And then a couple other big ones. We want the Bengals to upset the Colts. We want the Jaguars to beat the Browns. We want to root for the Jets to beat the Texans. Again, you could root for the Rams to beat the Ravens. Doesn't really matter. The Vikings to beat the Raiders. Doesn't really matter. And then the Chargers to beat the Broncos, knock them really fully, give them a 7th loss and knock them really healthy back into it. You can root for the Titans to beat the Dolphins. Again, not really impactful, but it's fun. So I suggest you do that with all of your heart. So again, tonight is a fun one to be able to look at the rooting interest for everything. The Bills got a fair amount of help. The playoff picture got even more interesting. But ultimately, as C Rose is saying here, it doesn't matter how they get in; they just got to get in. And I promise, no one wants to see the Buffalo Bills as a 7 seed. Nobody, the Jaguars could have one of their best seasons in franchise history, and then hey, congratulations, you're the 2 seed. Here you go, the Buffalo Bills. Congratulations, enjoy that. So again, please help us out here. Press the like button. If you enjoy these recaps, we're going to do them all the way down the stretch. Give us a like, rating, review. It goes a long ways. Help us out. Spread the word about all the fun that we're doing. We're going to keep doing the work here to let you guys know what impacts the team and how it can help us. But now we'll head back to Sunday Night Football and let you enjoy it. On behalf of producer Chris Seth, I'm Greg Thompson. You've been listening to the Greg Thompson Sports Show, and we